Hey everybody, Christy here. I've been working on a quilt based on the book The Farmer's Wife Sampler Quilt Letters from 1920s Farm Wives by Lori Ann Hurd. This book contains basic block patterns for 111 different 6-inch blocks, and I've been using Electric Quilt 8 software to keep track of my progress. Let me show you how I do it. First, I have the project file open in EQ8. Now let's draw a new block. Design a new block from scratch, and I'm going to make an easy draw block. It's going to be a 6-inch wide block. It has currently 24 snaps horizontal and vertical, which will work for this block, and the graph paper cells are set at 6 cells, which is 1 per inch, which will be perfect. So the block that I'm about to draw is number 26. It's called Cut Glass Dish, and let me just show you really quick. This is a fairly simple block that's all lines and triangles, so it's squares and half square triangles. I have the book open in front of me, and this is again, this block is going to be just for my personal use. I'm not sharing these templates out, but I just kind of wanted to show you in case somebody else was thinking about using software to keep track of a sampler quilt like this. This is kind of a good process to use. Really all I'm doing is following the pattern in the book and recreating that in the software. Here I'm just showing all of the seam lines that are going to be in the finished block. Let's see, we've got a few more teeny tiny half square triangles in this block. This one actually I've already sewn it up. It turned out super cute. A little fiddly because of all of these little triangles. These will all actually be 1/2 inch wide, and oops, you can see I made a mistake. I'm going to edit this one. I got my line going to the wrong corner. Oh, all better. Let's keep going. A few more half square triangles. And if you've never used something like EQ8 before, this is a great software package. It will help you lay out your own quilts. It can do some basic calculations on yardage, and it can help you color the blocks to look like your finished quilt. So you can actually load in fabrics, the real fabric images that you're going to use. So I use this quite a lot. It does not do everything for you. It is not magic. You can't just take a picture of a quilt and have it automatically come up with a pattern. There's definitely a lot of design thinking you still have to do. But if you're somebody like me who just really likes to have a control over the final layout and really prefers to work on the computer rather than pen and paper, this is a great option. So now I have what I believe are all of my lines drawn for this block. Now let's go and color the block. And first, verifying that I did indeed get all of my half square triangles, and it looks like I did. Now on the fabrics on the left, you can see I've actually loaded ahead of time the fabrics from this line that I'm using. I'm actually making my quilt using a layer cake and some additional yardage that I bought a couple years ago. So I've already loaded those images in, and now I'm going to color the patches on my block. So I actually am using this kind of pink with dots for these 3 large squares, and then I have this yellow color for the top halves of these half square triangles. And you can see the coloring, and it's just as easy as clicking the button. All I'm doing is clicking. And then I use this blue, which I don't know why it looks weird and pixelated in the picture on the left, but when I actually put it in the block, it looks pretty darn close to what the real software or what the real fabric looks like. So this, let's see, almost done. And this right here, finished quilt block, right? So that was pretty quick and easy. What did that take me? A minute or two? I mean, the first few times you use it, if you're new to the software and it takes you a while, don't worry. It takes a while to get used to also. I've been working with this for a couple of years now, so I'm going pretty fast. So now what I have is I have a finished quilt block, and I'm going to do what's called add to my project sketchbook. That just tells EQ8 to remember this one for later, including this layout of colors. So some other fun things I can do from this screen right here. If I were to go to this print and export tab, I could actually look at, let's look at a preview if I wanted to just print out the block itself. here it is. If I wanted an image of that to print out for something, I could do that. I could print out templates if I was quilting with templates. See, it would actually give me the 2 cut templates, though that one looked like maybe, here we go, if I did it again and say print the seam allowance. So you can see I could actually cut these out and use these to cut out my pieces if I wasn't going to use a rotary cutter or a different method. And another interesting thing I could do, I could choose to do this as a foundation pieced quilt, and it will actually do some amount of numbering for me, and I could choose to renumber it if I liked, but here we go. And then this would give me a PDF I could then print and stitch directly on the paper if I wanted to foundation paper piece this block. Anyway, so that is all super useful. For today, really all I'm going to do is put this on what I'm using for a sort of a virtual quilt design wall. So I already added my quilt to the sketchbook, and now I'm actually going to switch to the quilt work table view. On my quilt work table, this will let me lay out quilts and in any number of different fashions. I have a couple of them already going. See, I've got some different layouts I've played with, including ones that have, copies of my basic blocks. But the one that I've been using the most is this giant, just plain layout. This is not probably how I'm going to actually sew the final quilt, but this layout should give me enough space for all or almost all of the quilt blocks that I have been making. And let me zoom in a little bit, and you can see for all of the blocks that I've made so far, I've actually drawn them up in the software and colored them exactly like the block that I actually sewed, so that I can see what I have to work with and what colors I have been using the most of, and so on. And so now let's go find this newest quilt block that I just created. Oh, here it is in my blocks list. And I'm going to use this button here that says set block, and I'm going to put this block into the next open space. And it's as easy as that. And now I'm going to actually save. This one's already in my sketchbook. It's not a brand new quilt layout, so I don't need to add it to the sketchbook because it's already in there. Just need to make sure it was saved. Yeah, and then like I said, if you wanted to zoom in a little closer, some other fun things from here, you can turn, if all of those lines, I don't know if you can see, let me zoom in one more time. You see all the little black lines. Obviously when you sew, you don't have little black lines between all of your pieces. Those are just there for the computer, so I can turn those off to get a better feel for what it looks like without the outlines. And see, that makes a little difference, especially on some of these blocks that have a lot of little pieces. So that makes all the little pieces sort of, visually merge together into one piece rather than, individual pieces and so on. Anyway, so that is like super helpful. Let me show you a couple of the other kind of some things I've played with. For example, this is one that, depending on how many blocks I end up with at the end, this is the layout I was considering that I might actually use. So I've got a layout that's where everything is set on point. I have spaces for some blocks to fit in the corners. I can zoom in a little bit closer. You can see I've just kind of put them in randomly, but once I get going, I could decide instead to move them around a little bit. I could, so I don't want that one there. Maybe I actually want to take that one. Oops, I think I set the block instead of editing it. And where did it go? It was, well, one of these in here. Say maybe I want that block here, and I can play around with the layout directly on the screen. This is a lot like doing it on the wall, except my wall isn't so big. Anyway, so that's kind of the process I've been using. I make sure I save my project occasionally so I don't lose any of the updates I've been making. Anyway, thanks everybody for following along. Love to see if you've made a quilt based on this book before. I would love to see your blocks and see your finished quilts. Happy to share, and I will talk to you all soon. Thanks.